Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pillar to Post. I am your host, Rashawn Aline, and I'm rejoined as always by Colby Hamlin. And we're going to kick off season two of the 2026 racing season with the World Heritage Bridgetown and its Garrison race day. It's going to feature the St. Anne's Garrison Handicap and Colby. It's really, really good to be back.
Yeah, Rashawn, so glad to be back. Puts a smile on my face to find two races once again. Kicking off the race day, as you mentioned, we start with the Old Town Hall handicap going 9 furlongs. Horses rated 30 to 15. And Rashawn, we have the same exact, our third place changes. But if I can say so myself, the reason I didn't choose Rush as my winner, the 131 pounds just was not attractive. Now, I did go for Miss Universe, who seems to now be finding herself recently being trained by Antonio Pert. She just had a win with Delano Lopez going 9 furlongs and basically a pillar to post. Basically a pillar to post win with 123 pounds. You know, she comes back here with 119. I think the race remains the same. Every last yard, go straight to the lead, and they have to catch you.
Well, I picked Miss Universe last time, and if you were following our Instagram, because we didn't have a recording that week, and I think obviously she's starting to do well with this class. But if you look at who she's beating Temple Dancer and Prominent and 17 million US, who you have and I don't, who hasn't run a good race in quite some time. So I think if you can think with the 30s and lowers, the water get a little bit deeper here. Also, with the presence of Visionary stretching out, he was able to lead a sprint a couple starts ago. Maybe it won't be as easy on the lead for Miss Universe in this spot. So I'll take Rush, who is actually claiming 7 from the 131. So 124 pounds, I think, as the top rated horse in this field will be very hard to beat. And I'm going to go to a replay of him in his last start, where he won 3 starts ago on Gold Cup Day at 1,800 meters. So that would have been an easy replay to show. But I want to just show the gallop of this horse, where he never stopped trying. And in his last start in a race behind Caribbean Kitten and Gabby's Girl, who are in very fine form for this class at the 1,100 meters at the mile, he kept running at these horses. And I thought that ultimately, when he stretches back up to 9 furlongs with this claim and Kadeem Mohammed, that Rush will be very tough to beat. I do respect Miss Universe. I have her on my second line. I think, as you said, the dynamics are favorable, but I just think Rush is just a little better. And then I'll take number 4, Visionary, with Ricky Walker getting on board. I love the weight of 113 pounds. And again, who else am I supposed to pick? You know, Chansey and Vatasha, 2 maidens, and 17 million US. Her best days seemingly have been behind her. So I'm going to go 1-3-4 to start the card.
I stuck with 17 million US simply because of consistency. She has not ran an amazing race, but she's always been there or thereabout. And I think simply being herself is good enough to hit the board here. You did make an interesting point with Visionary, with Ricky Walker, 113 pounds is attractive, but not quite enough for me to buy into it. And Vatash and Chansey, you know, the 2 lone maidens, quite not catching my eye as anyone would expect. I'm going to stick with 17 million US, but you know, make me circle Visionary a bit. I'll stay exactly where I am, though.
Yeah, so we'll see. So race number 2 is the Chamberlain Bridge condition race. It's at 1,100 meters for our West Indian by 3-year-olds. So we just had the first leg of the Triple Crown in the Guineas that was won by Ultrasound. So this seems like a bit of a reset for some of them. And we have Pavlova, who scratched out of the Guineas, and Barnabas, who made most of the running early in the Guineas. And this is going to be an interesting one to see. And you're going to go actually with number 5, Twinkle Toes, who didn't compete in the Guineas.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with horse number 5, Twinkle Toes. The Guineas was 7.8. This race is 5.5 furlongs. Completely different dynamics. I think this is where Twinkle Toes quite settles in. Now, Twinkle Toes has been there or thereabout in her early starts, but I think she's now understanding her point. Venom is another attractive animal in this race, but after going off with an injury, has not been quite there. And Twinkle Toes, who would have just ran with Arya Stark and some other Serenity and Arya Stark and some others. Twinkle Toes, especially with the visor, seems very attractive with the 7-pound claim. Barnabas is also there. Venom is also there. A horse I'm really looking forward to seeing here is actually Pavlova, who would have skipped the Guineas and come straight here, maybe going straight to the Midsummer. But I think at least at 5.5 furlongs, I think Twinkle Toes stands the strongest chance here. Venom, who I think now has to get back to his best, or at least raise his boots to show us where his confidence or where his class is going to lay, is best to be second for me and Pavlova on my third line, thinking that this horse will suit a longer distance.
So first off, on Twinkle Toes, I don't have her anywhere. I was ultimately very disappointed that Arya Stark and Serenity came away losing to Twinkle Toes. Obviously, she changed connections for that win, which is good that you want to see that the connections were able to take her over and turn out a win on her first start for them. Yeah, but I was very disappointed. I thought Arya Stark especially had a lot more quality than that. So I'm not really rating that win from Twinkle Toes that highly. So I'm going to go for horse number 3, Pavlova, who, if she stayed in the Guineas, I would have chosen very highly. And I thought in the hopeful that she lost to Atara, this horse was best. And she was green. She had trouble in the first turn and she was bolting. The jockey got her to settle. Ariel never gave her a breather. And she was able to turn away Ariel, who ultimately finished third. Ultrasound was nowhere in their spot, who ultimately won the Guineas. So the horses behind her made up 2/3 of the trifecta for the Guineas. And then Atara comes and gets her. But if you watch this stretch run, Pavlova never gives up. And I think if she didn't have so much to worry about early in the race and could have settled a bit better, she's the winner of the hopeful in what was her 4th start. So I think Pavlova's a filly with a lot of quality. She's bred really well, and she broke her maiden at 1,100 meters. So I don't think 1,100 meters is not within her wheelhouse. Maybe she might be better further, but she definitely is the horse that I want. From the inside, she might be the one to catch. 119 pounds as well. Then I'll take number 6, Barnabas, with Colin Ross coming over from Guyana to ride, claiming to 117 pounds. Again, he showed the speed in the Guineas, really blazed, which was uncharacteristic in my opinion. So this route to sprint, I really like, and cutting back, I don't think he's going to get an easy trip, but he, again, another one that broke his maiden at 1,100 meters. So I'll take him on my second line, exiting the Guineas. And then number 4, Venom. Last year, this is one of the better 2-year-olds. He obviously went wrong and went to the sidelines, came back and knocked off some rust in a race that I liked. He ran into a horse that's doing really well right now in Espresso, but he didn't show that same speed off the bench. If he shows that speed here, he's dangerous. But I don't think that second off the bench, given how he ran in his first start, that I want to pick him on top of Pavlova and Barnabas horses who have quality and recency. So I'll go 3, 6, 4 for race number 2. And then we're going to move on to race number 3, the City of Bridgetown Handicap, 1,100 meters as well. This one is for 3-year-olds and older, rated 75 and below. And we're going to end the card with the Mystic that everyone talks about. But last year, there was another Mystic 3-year-old in Port Colt that everyone could not get enough of, but he makes his return, number 5, Mystic Adventure.
Yeah, I think his return is highly anticipated. It's quite interesting to see where he's going to end back up, seeing he was a first-time winner, but from the injury he was off with, a lot of horses don't quite recover from that. You know, you look on the optimistic side, hoping that he's going to return even better, but it's all left to be seen. Now, we both fall on the same forecast, Zeba into the same Mystic Adventure. I think Zeba is quite maybe the obvious choice here. I think that is the horse to beat, no matter how you look at this race. Mystic Adventure could be the best of the rest. You still have the 2 first-time starters in Inferon and in Storm. But I must ask you, how come you didn't go for premise for your trifecta? I see you went for a first-time starter.
So I'll tackle Instorm first, then get to the 3-5 that we both have. When you look at the price tag on number 2, Instorm, who is by McKinsey out of a Distorted Humor Mirror, Mystic Adventure is $40,000. Inferon is $25,000. Zeba is $10,000. That adds up to $75,000 for the 3 of those horses. Instorm alone, his price tag is $75,000. So by value, he was chosen for, you could get the 3 of those for the same price you got Instorm for. So there has to be some sort of quality here with Instorm. I think the pedigree is top notch. McKinsey's a really young emerging sire in the US. So there, and this group has been good top to bottom, from Mystic, Reina Soleil Levant to Awesome Mike and Etta James and Zeba, Mystic Adventure. The list just goes on and on. So if that trend is to continue, I want these imported 3-year-olds every single time over premise. So that's why I ultimately went with Instorm, who is making perhaps a very belated debut, because you didn't pay $75,000 to be making your first start in the middle of your 3-year-old season. But I'll take Zeba over Mystic Adventure, again, just because of the recency. The 7-pound difference was attractive for Mystic Adventure, a horse who ran 105 in his debut with 128 pounds. But Zeba in her last start was able to run 104. She got hounded every step of the way by Etta James. And I think this is a spa sprint horse, honestly. And I don't want to blight her, but I think anyone would say that. So to break your maiden running 104, this is a real test for Mystic Adventure, making his return after almost a year off. He's been off for 8 months. So Zeba, I think, in this spot right now is the horse you want. Maybe down the road, Mystic Adventure will be better. But I think Zeba with Ricky Walker, I don't mind giving Mystic Adventure 7 pounds in this spot and coming away with the win. So I'll go to a imported trifecta with Zeba, Mystic Adventure, and In Storm.
Understood. The choice of Premise over In Storm simply came from, it's hard to look at a horse that went for 4 straight wins, stepping up in class each and every time and succeeding. Right. His last 2 starts have been off the board, admittedly, but the 7-pound claim, especially considering your $75,000 horse has not raced yet, I have to choose who is, for lack of a better term, fitter for the position. And at the end of the day, you know, I have a saying: a horse does not know its price. So you could pay $1 million and a $10,000 horse beat it.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. But again, Premise 2 starts back ran behind Etta James and Zeba. So again, I just think this group is really, really talented. So we'll see. Premise, as you said, rattled off 4, but 4 against who when you think about these 3-year-old imports? So maybe if he finds a good version of himself, he'll be tough. But I really like the imported group.
I got you. So we move on to race number 4 and talk about a deep field. We move on to the Queen's Park handicap, going 7.8, horses rated 55 and lower. And, you know, there's some races that have an obvious winner, an obvious 1, 2, maybe even an obvious 1, 2, 3. I think there's so many horses in here with a chance that you have to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, Rashawn.
No, I definitely popped from one horse to the other. And I ultimately landed on horse number 11, Kite, who is a maiden, but he crossed the wire first in his last start. And I think this is just a horse that is progressing very, very nicely. He's a 4-year-old son of Storm Arrow out of Princess Tiana, who is a really prolific broodmare as well. And last time out, he got a great trip, mind you, by Eric Daniel, who did everything right up until 7.6 furlongs of this race. And he saved ground the entire way. And he's beating horses that he's reopposing, like Mystique and Mandarin Oriental, also beating Luscious, who I thought was a lock in this spot, and Binary Code, who's now turned into a really nice animal. So for Kite to break his maiden in this spot and to finish in 135, I thought that was very impressive. And as you see there, like Daniel angling him out late, and then hitting with the right hand, and he came across priceless, so he was ultimately disqualified to 3rd. But as I said, this is a horse that's just getting better with every start. And you may feel like, okay, maybe last time was the time and you're getting on when it's too late. But I love the 7-pound claim with Straker to take some weight off of the 124, where the other horses that he has to beat are going to be giving him weight. So if he continues to trend in the right direction, I don't see why Kite can't replicate that in this spot.
Okay, on the flip side of things, I went for my winner as horse number 6, Mystique, who has had a couple rough trips her last few starts. But I think the Mystique that we would have seen back in January is better than these horses. As much as she doesn't quite stand out amongst these, maybe on paper, I think form-wise, talent-wise, I think Mystique is the horse to beat. Mystique has had a couple of rough trips her last couple of races. Now, Mystique, who has been stepping up in class, stepping up in form, as she has switched hands over to the Fearsome Foursome. She hasn't had a ride from Rashid Hughes. She has not won without Rashid Hughes since he's left. But I think in a race like this, considering she's rated 54 out of 55, 123 pounds, and claiming 7 with Thorpe, who has been a great customer to her, I don't see anyone here beating her. I think she should be pretty fine in this field. For my second place, I went for horse number 4, Charisma. Now, Charisma has been a highlight in her first few starts. And, you know, whether it's been 5.5 or 7.8, this horse has been knocking at the door each and every time. The last 3 starts was a first, a second, and a first. My third place goes to horse number 7, Mandarin Oriental, who seems not to know how to run off the board. 3rd, 4th, and 5th, his last 3 starts. I think he's good enough for third. I think the pace may get away from him a bit, but he should be good enough for third. And Heidi Marie, who is quite finding some form, claiming 7 from 120 pounds, I think is good enough for fourth. Magnific was one that came up on my highlight, put down a run that I was not looking for her last start. But I think this is maybe a bit too far of a reach for this one. I think she's going to be fifth at best. But my first 4, 6, 4, 7, and 9.
Okay, so I agree with the analysis of the trips of Mystique. She was, as I said, I was looking at multiple different horses to win this race, and she was the first that I landed on. As you said so rightfully, on Gold Cup Day, she had a very hard trip behind Luscious. She was wide and made a big run, and she never stopped trying, but she was obviously hung out to dry in that spot. Comes back in 2 subsequent races, and again, does not get any good trips. In the same race that Kite was disqualified from, that was dominated on the front end. Kite was on the inside. She was wide, and she's the only one that made up any sort of ground. So if she gets a good trip, she's just as talented as any of these. But I can't expect a good trip out of a horse that keeps finding some sort of trouble. So if she can save ground, she might be a player in this spot. So underneath of Kite, I will split them with Charisma, who I thought was very impressive 3 starts back. And again, that same race that Luscious won on Gold Cup Day, she won it in 138. Charisma 2 races later, same trip, same distance, won it in 137 and showed a phenomenal turn of foot. Second was Undeniable, who I was very disappointed with his performance in the Guineas, but I thought Charisma really looked well in that spot. She subsequently come back, got walked to the park by Simmer Down. I feel like Simmer Down just got everything her own way. Then Charisma returned and won another sprint at a trip that I don't think is her best. So I really am excited to see Charisma in this company. I think she stacks up with them. And Charisma is another 4-year-old, just like Mystique and Kite, that I think are just doing really well. Then on my 4th line, I'll take horse number 14, Magnific, who it was between her and Heidi Marie. Ultimately, Delano Lopez getting on this one over Heidi Marie tipped the scale. I think now in the hands of Antonio Perch. This one looked phenomenal, just physically changed last time out, and then ran really well, 153, ran through the lane really powerfully. And again, Heidi Marie, the claim is attractive, but not very impressive with these wins, getting these slow paces and not putting it to bed. So I'm going to take Magnific to round out the superfecta for race number 4.
Signing up for BTC bets is very easy. Go to BarbadosTurfClub.org. Scroll down to start betting. Click sign up for a free account and fill out the form. Check your email for the verification code and enter it. Create a personal password and PIN, and you're all set to start betting.
So we move on to race number 5. It's the Carlisle Bay Handicap for 3-year-olds and older, rated 45 and lower, and they're also going to sprint at the 1100 meter distance. And this one is actually pretty competitive. It's going to be top to bottom, a really fast one out of the gates, and you're going to land on horse number 9, Gabby's Girl.
Yeah. When you look through the field, there's so much speed in here. I mean, ranging from Gunsmoke, Northern Lady, Action Pack, Thunder Lady, even the same Gabby's Girl and Ollivander, who I have as my 1-2. But what stood up to me about Gabby's Girl, since Gabby Girl has changed hands to Akeem Walcott, I don't know what she had to eat this particular day, but her performance the 21st of March, 2026 freaked me out. She ran 105 and 4. Going 5.5 furlongs with the same Delano Lopez, 122 pounds. So no weight that she's unfamiliar with. She ended up going 7.8 the start after, she was dismissed into third, but then came back again to run 5.5 the 2nd of May, 2026, and replicated her time a second off. She did run 106 and 4, but she proved that it wasn't a fluke. I want to say the form horse in this class.
No, 100% on Gabby's Girl. And if there is any horse that I have not chosen on this show that I am afraid of, it is Gabby's Girl. I definitely think that she's doing really well right now. Stepped up around 105. That is blistering for anyone, right? And then she went to a mile, ran pretty credibly, then came back and did more of the same at 1100 meters. So the waters do get deeper here, but if she's gotten better now that she's changed connections, why not climb the ladder and still do well? So I definitely fear her. So that is one horse that I would admit that I could see beating me. But I'll take number 6, Elegant, who might be a price in this spot, and I hope she is a price, where she's run 2 creditable races in her last 2 starts. She routed going 1570 on the 11th of April, and there was a lot of trouble in there where she got elevated to 5th, a lot of disqualifications. Then she comes back on the 25th of April and runs behind Charisma, who I like in a race prior, and she finds more trouble as well. And I thought that she broke on top and showed good speed, and perhaps Bishop didn't want to hustle her, but maybe should have kept the lead. Losing the lead and trying to re-rally puts her in this position where she splitting horses probably to be competitive for the win with Charisma, where How You Do closes that gap. Now she goes from potentially winning or second to 4th. So now she drops in class from that 55 and lower to a 45 and lower, where she's one of the highest rated horses in the field. She gets Straker to take 7 pounds off. So I really like that 123 with Elegant. And you said there's a lot of speed in here. Maybe behind that speed, she can get a really good trip.
That could be possible. As I look at both of our second spots, we both have horse number 10, Ollivander, who, I'm so used to saying is a class horse in this field, but really and truly, all these horses belong in this race. I think what I more so should be saying is this is a consistent horse in this class. And I can see where Gabby's Girl goes to front and shows her early speed, and Ollivander is down behind her, hounding her the entire trip.
Yeah, well, as you said, with Gabby's Girl, she's fast, but if you watch the replay that you showed with Action Pat, she didn't necessarily go after the lead. So I'm not sure how fast she's going to want to go in this race. Ollivander did show speed in his last start, and as you said, you're so correct. He is very consistent. Definitely a concern here with the 127, as again, Elegant, the one that I chose on top, is going to get a claim. But Ollivander is doing really well too. He just ran 2 consecutive thirds and was tough to not win both of those. So I really think Ollivander has a big shot in this spot like you. Then I'll take number 1, Rear Nickel, and we both agree on this one. Natari Hunt on board, claiming 7, 117 pounds. I don't mind that Ollivander is going to give her 10 pounds, and neither do you. And she was very, just like you talked about with Mystique, she was also very unlucky not to have at least another win in her last couple of starts, because in the race behind Princess Julia, she was wide the entire way. Then with Espresso, she got into some trouble. So this is a horse that's going to come running, and she's been very unlucky not to get a win in her last couple of starts. So maybe with all this speed on paper, Cobia, she will be one coming later.
And I do agree, and that's exactly why I picked horse number 12, Dorcas, as my 4th shot. Now, since Dorcas has switched hands to Curlin Felician, her first start, well, what was supposed to be her first start, she ended up flipping in the gate. So, right, scratch that, toss that one under the rug. Her last start, uncharacteristically, she showed speed. I wasn't looking for that. Majority of her better races, she closed fast at the end. And all of these races were at 5.5 furlongs. The race where she went up in the gates, I thought was an absolute walkover for her until, well, the obvious occurred. But last race, I was dumbfounded when I saw her leading the race. That was shocking to me. So I'm not sure if a change in the tactics for this one is the best. It wouldn't be the first time I've seen new connections give a horse, try new tactics with said horse and became successful. But I think Dorcas may be a little bit better closing at the end of this race instead of leading.
Yeah, I agree, but I think this is a race that she might be in over her head. I will take number 4, Northern Lady, who really and truly, she's like Ollivander, doing really well as well. She's got a win, a second, a third, and a 4th in her last 4 starts. So it kind of feels like a default. She gets Thorpe, 119 pounds. Again, I was toying with Gabby's Girl on my 4th line. It probably just felt super easy to go with Northern Lady here, who could also rate and be competitive. So we'll see. This is a really interesting race for the middle of the card in race number 5. We're going to move on to race number 6. It's the Cheapside Gardens Handicap. And this one is for 3-year-olds and older maidens. And they're also sprinting 1,100 meters. And this is the high 5 race on the card. And it's the high 5 race for a reason, because this one is filled with maidens who just have seen like they've had their chance. And somebody's going to get a maiden breaking win in this spot.
Well, a full field of 12, somebody has to win. I ended up with horse number 4, Electra. Now, as much as this horse has been improving with every start against her own company, when I say her own company, I mean her age group. She's now exposed to a few older horses, the likes of Start Time, Poseidon, and some others, could be a bit daunting. But I think Electra should be good enough, especially considering this horse has 106 pounds and is claiming 7. I'm not sure how much Muhammad can take
Yeah,
off,
Muhammad is probably not going to get 99 pounds in the saddle.
if any at all. But
Yeah.
the weight pull for her age, especially with start time, is very, very attractive to me, Rashawn.
I don't like Electra in this spot. I have her on my 5th line just because of the rest. She was the best of them, if that's even a way I can quantify her or qualify her. One thing I know is she always beats Star Time. Star Time is not one that I think is going to beat Electra. So I think that Electra is just a little in over her head as well here. But again, she's bred well. If she's doing better, definitely with the weight, no, it's the spot. I'm gonna take number 8, Maker's Mark. This is one who's run 2 races, gets Ricky Walker on board, and he ran a very impressive debut, and that was behind Relentless, who ran into the Guineas, and I was at 1100 meters. Stretched out behind Copper Shot in what was a 3-year-old route race, and I don't think this is a horse that that was a spot where he would have been better than Copper Shot. I think Copper Shot with the experience, even off the layoff, was very tough to beat. But now he cuts back to 1100 meters. I think that Maker's Mark might be the dangerous one in this spot because Maker's Mark, he's not as exposed. He's only making his 3rd career start, and he's been on the board in both starts. 121 pounds, regardless of who is claiming where. I don't think it's going to be hard for him to give that weight away and win here. The shock, and I hope I get some odds on this one, is going to be number 12, Zebedee. And admittedly, I know this is a shot in the dark. This 3-year-old, 4-year-old is by King the Jungle out of Atletico mare called Gazing. That makes him a half brother rather, to Gazed, who is a multiple time winner, and Pussycat, who's the Tango Gold winner of 2026. He's the 3rd foal. So there is quality in the family. Gazing the Dam is a sister to Knight Rider Derby winner, and he comes out of a race behind Magnific. And I picked Magnific earlier, and I think Magnific's race might be a lot better than it looked on paper. Faster Cash was in that spot. She beat Destiny's Choice and Desert Flower. They returned in a maiden race, and Desert Flower and Destiny's Choice was able to beat Faster Cash. In this race with Magnific, Zebedee was right there with Desert Flower. So if they came out and they ran an improved race, why not second time out? Could Zebedee not run an improved race to be right up there with Faster Cash? And Edward Walker is a trainer who will give them that experience first time out and run a lot better second time. And he did break pretty well, so I don't think he'll be left behind in this sprint. He's drawn wide, so he shouldn't get into trouble. And I think Zebedee might be a sneaker here for your high 5.
Well, on the flip side, I believe this horse suits a longer trip. I think he can place going 5.5, especially with a field like this. But I think this horse wants 7.8, 9, 10 furlongs. I think this is a horse to look forward to for the Derby. On my second line, I actually ended up with horse number 9, Poseidon, who has been knocking at the door time and time again, and no one will ever open the door. I think he needs to kick down the door. But coming from all the way on the 9 hole on the outside, maybe he is the fastest horse in the race. Maybe Start Time and Electra is going to hang him out wide. I still think he's good enough for second. On my third line, I went with Faster Cash, who, just like Poseidon, is always there or there. But I see you also have Faster Cash for your third line.
Yeah, you have to have Faster Cash in this spot, right? This race goes through her. Admittedly, it goes through her. If she can put a race together, she wins this race. Devonta Abraham is on board 110 pounds. She'll be pretty close to that. She's run with everybody, and she places, like, she's been on the board in every one of her last 8 starts, and probably even before that. Faster Cash is due, but obviously everyone is going to be tired chasing her. Probably will get some odds on her in this spot because Maker's Mark is going to be the hot favorite in this race. I don't see a dynamic where it's favorable because she goes to the lead. There are horses in here that will make her uncomfortable, and I don't think she's the best closer. She comes back here with some foundation though after 2 back-to-back route races, so maybe this is the race for Faster Cash, but I'm gonna go elsewhere. But you have to pay attention to her because this is a horse that you don't want to be burned when she finally does win, because she will win a race.
Yeah, she will win a race, but she's one of those that you've played so many times that at some point you stop and then she ends up winning. And you don't ever want to be that person that misses when she does win.
Exactly.
But to complete my high five, I went with her stablemate Star Time. Again, the close draw with 107 pounds. I'm not sure what Bellamy brings to the saddle as it relates to his body weight and what he can take off with the apprentice claim. But with the 3-year-olds, at least, it's pretty hard to ignore a lot of them with the weight pull.
Yeah, as I said, the race gets very deep after the, I guess, obvious ones of 7, 8, 9. I went with a long shot in Zebedee, and then I like Electra of the rest. Star Time really never beats Electra, so as I said earlier, I'll take Electra to round up my high five. But this is a competitive one, and it's one that could potentially pay really well for the high five. And speaking of competitive, we're going to move on to race number 7. It's the St. Anne's Garrison handicap. It's over 1570 meters. And I am very, very happy to see who showed up here. We've got Mystic Rain versus Nostradasa. They've come to play, and we are going to enjoy every single second.
Rashawn, when I look at this race, obviously 2 speedballs are in the 1 and 2 box. In my absolute honest opinion, whoever leads going into the paddock bend wins this race. I think with 105 pounds, there's absolutely no question you have to send Mystic Rain. You can't get 105 pounds being given 15 pounds from the other speedball and allow the speed to go. You're not catching her back.
Well, I see it a little differently. I think that Nostradasa should lead this race and Mystic Rain sits behind her. I think if Mystic Rain is lengths behind her, he's being ridden poorly. Because on that, I thought he was ridden poorly in the race that he lost to Bulldoze. This is a horse that has speed. With 105 pounds, you have to put him in the race. And Nostradasa can go, right? And very much 2011 Gold Cup, where Apostle goes, but Show Me Money is right there with him. And she is not that much faster than Mystic Rain, that she should be doing what she did in the Guineas, where she's cleared out 12, 15 lengths in front of him. She should be feeling Mystic Rain every step of the way. And if that is the case, I don't need to convince you, and I don't think I'm going to have to convince anyone. At 105 pounds, this horse is going to win this race. He's going to win it in a fast time as well. That just seems like a foregone conclusion. I think it's important for Mystic Rain to remind everybody who he is, because
who he is and what he stands for, because that last race was not an accurate representation of his abilities.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I don't know if it's instructions, but Muhammad gets on, and Muhammad needed to come away from their running. Bulldoze ultimately won the race and led the race, and I think Mystic Rain should have been given a trip similar to that. A lot of people are going to write off Mystic Rain because they expect him to win, but let's make something clear. This was the second fastest 1570 of all time at the Garrison. The track record is 133 flat, which was won by Nightcrawler. If that race never happened, this is the track record right now by Bulldoze. And the fact that this horse was able to run another 133 performance, to be beaten by 2 horses that are rated way higher than he is, giving him weight, understandably, and just miss from beating the Gold Cup winner at 3 years old in May is very impressive. And people are going to say, when he goes up in weight, he probably will get beat worse. No, when he goes up in weight, he's going to be older. He's going to be stronger. I think that Mystic Rain in this spot, and I feel like I'm just driving the Mystic Rain bandwagon right now, because I really like Mystic Rain, and I think this is a horse that we're going to hear from for years to come.
Years and years and years to come. Another reason that I didn't quite go for Nostradasa is, surprisingly, Rashawn, this horse has not seen 7.8 since her Guineas win last year. This is a full year. She has not seen this distance.
Yeah,
and as much as her... Go ahead.
No, I was saying she's obviously had some up and downs in her campaign. I love that she's been able to get to string some races together. But the mile, we know she can do it. But the mile that she ran in April last year, 135, is not going to cut it in this race. But obviously she's a better horse than she was then.
I do agree. She's more mature. She's maybe faster. She's maybe stronger. But what she did last year is not going to be enough to suffice. Is not going to suffice to be enough to be a horse to beat. A performance to beat a horse like Mystic Rain. Because when you get to the top of the stretch and you've got 10 lengths on the field, I'm sorry, Mystic Rain is breathing down your neck. You now have to run at the top of the stretch. I cannot wait to see how this race unfolds.
Yeah, with that though, to give her feather in her cap, I was very impressed with how she handled the 1100-meter race that she won on the 11th of April. Not only was she eyeballed, she was on the outside of Dancing Prospector, who really took it to her, and Nostradamus responded, and she ran 103 and 4. So that is one of the fastest 5.5s we've had in a very, very long time. So maybe now she's either getting a lot more courageous, or she's showing us that she's a really good sprinter. So I wanted to put her second, where I think that these two, Mystic Rain and Nostradamus, can go and, lap the field essentially, and she'll be brave enough and courageous enough now that she's a little bit more seasoned to hold on for second. But then I looked at the weight disparity that she had with Warbeat last time out. She received 9 pounds from Warbeat. Now she's only going to be receiving 2 pounds. So if Mystic Rain makes her uncomfortable enough, she could potentially feel it late. And Warbeat, who's really doing well, again, another one who's found a home at 1100 meters. I think at the mile, he could still be dangerous because, again, looking Dancing Prospector in the eyes is not the same as looking Mystic Rain in the eyes. So I think Warbeat could capitalize on that for third.
And for third, I went with Dancing Prospector. Dancing Prospector is the lone Creole. I'm mistaken. He's not the lone Creole, but he's the other Creole in the field. And I think he's the heartiest out of them all. I think he's going to sit third behind the two speedballs, and I think the speed is just going to get away from them. I don't think there's going to be any space for a closer because I think they're going to be going that fast up front. I think it's going to make it pretty uncomfortable. I expect a 47 and 4 half mile. I expect them to be absolutely blazing. So I think there's space for Dancing Prospector to grab third, but I'm not so sold on Warbeat, at least just as yet.
Yeah, I really hope this race lives up to its billing, that they give us the performance that we really anticipate, because for a small field, this is a really thrilling race for the 120s and lower.
I do agree. And nevertheless, it is a small field, but I love the quality and I love what I'm hoping to see. And that was a preview of the first race day for the second racing season of 2026. As we celebrate 1 year of this show, we want to say thanks for every like, view, comment, and word of advice. This journey would not have been possible without you.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you so much for supporting Pillar to Post over the last year. Can't believe, Kobe, it's been a year already. Again, keep up the support. Please like and follow and subscribe on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X. And as always, may all your tickets be winning ones.